Friendship. Hi, part two. Nah. So I did a little video, a short one, and I got thinking about it. It kind of was a bit of a rambling mess, and that's okay. That's kind of how my shit rolls. But I also know that I got a lot of comments out of it, which I was appreciative of, from a lot of men of a certain age, as I point out. And it got me thinking I should probably make my points a little more concise, sharp even. And for me, the whole lonely men as they get older kind of thing, and you can kind of see it, right? Like most people, if you're kind of that boomer generation, right, born after World War II, right, or even if you're born in the 60s, right, you kind of have one or two friends, right? Like it was a different time, not so much was reliant on technology. So a lot of things had phones with cords on them. You had to call people and talk. You had to ask girls or guys out in person or over the phone, which is never a good idea. Don't ask someone out over text. That's old man me talking now. But when it comes to the guys and like the camaraderie pieces, you don't see shows like Diner, right? Or where it's about a group of guys, or you got, well, I was gonna say The Outsiders, but that was kind of, but you know what I mean? Or The Dream Team, which is a good movie with Michael Keaton, Peter Boyle, Christopher Lloyd, and Peter First, right? Where it's about that camaraderie, guys get together. Even The Hangover, right? You had those kind of shows, but I think it's easier for women to maintain that kind of relationship piece than it is for men, and I think it's because men, I think, are, and I'm speaking as a man, I guess, but we have the spot now where, right, we're responsible, right? We got to do this stuff, even if we aren't and we fall apart sometimes. That happens. But I think that stuff happens because of the pressure sometimes we put on ourselves in order to do things, right? Things don't go well, we take it personally because we're supposed to be the breadwinner, all that kind of stuff. So our emphasis is always on making a family unit stronger, or even just focusing on things outside of ourselves. Now, I'm not saying females don't do that, but it's different, right? There's the maternal instincts, paternal instincts. I'm not going to get into all that. I'm certainly going to not get too clinical about anything, but I'm just focusing on kind of the relationship aspects and why that is, right? Like my circle of friends is people that you can kind of pick up, and it's like you never kind of were apart despite the length of time. To me, that's kind of like, you know, it's the people you click with. Those are your friends. If you really needed something, or you needed someone to talk to, or stuff was going down, you could call and say, hey man, look, I just need to vent for a minute, and they'll take that and go, right? And I think and I think we have that these days, even just the camaraderie like that. Because nowadays everything is instant gratification. You can text someone right now. I don't have to call you on the phone. I don't have to see you. We got FaceTime, right? I don't even have to talk to you, right? Or I can see what you're up to because you're posting what you ate for lunch. That is kind of like the norm. I post some of the weirdest stuff imaginable, I think, and luckily I have friends that support my foolish endeavors, just like I support theirs, because that's what being a friend is all about, right? Now, it's not foolish, but I will throw this in now. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to the Unemployable Counselor. I'm also on Facebook, and I'm also part of a group with a good friend of mine, the Boreal Chameleon, on Facebook. You should really check that out as well. You need permission to get in, but I know a guy, so I can probably help you out. Okay? Right, so you have these things where all of a sudden it's like, it's that social piece that kind of plugs some holes in our lives. Because I know for myself, and I've been all like, I've struggled with some depression, anxiety, those sorts of things. And I find that, for me, like, online stuff is kind of an outlet, right? As long as you don't go out to hurt anybody, why not? It's kind of fun, right? You all get to have some laughs, some inappropriate jokes at times. But it fills a need. And I think that's something with society as a whole, where it's like, men are just supposed to be, you're this and that's that. I realize the world has changed in the last 50 years. But let's go back to those people born in the 60s. They grew up in the 1970s, which was probably the best time to grow up, really, right? You had drive-ins, you had good cars, you had, bell bottoms, Lonnie Anderson. So, I mean, there's lots of good things coming in the 70s. But, I mean, just growing up and just having that kind of freedom, there wasn't those many restrictions. You could go out in the morning at 9 a.m. and come back when either someone's yelling your name or the sun's going down, right? You're going your bikes, you go whatever, you go hang out in fields, you go explore, catch frogs, whatever it is you're doing, you know, because there wasn't like that online presence. You can't get that stuff at home, right? If you were a teenage boy in the 70s, 80s, and even up to about the mid 90s, right? Um, you only had certain options if you wanted to see, you know, if you wanted to anything, like, they had magazines, all this kind of shit. Right now, you can go on there right now and Google some of the weirdest stuff imaginable, right? And and the internet almost kind of takes that place as being the friend. Because how many of us have our phone with us all the time, right? I'm recently working at a place where I don't have my phone for 8 hours a day. And I thought I would really kind of be, adverse or have some weird sort of reaction, but I'm not. In fact, I kind of like not having it, that little break. But also makes you think about other things too, because it's like, I think, and I'm going to go back to this for a minute, right? So you're in the 70s, you're in the 80s, it's a different time frame, right? I think there's some people that are still friends with folks they were in back then. But I mean, as you get older, it's more like friends become almost interchangeable, right? You have your elementary school experience, maybe high school experience, maybe post secondary or work friends. Because I tell you, growing up, I had friends in school, and then we just, when school was done, that was it. But then you kind of get some work friends, you go with that, and my work friends were really good friends. And then I got married, and of course, at that time, I figured probably because I had lady accompaniment, I guess I felt like it, didn't need me anymore. People drift apart and they go, and that's just unfortunately the way it is. But there's always those friends that you connect with and kind of bounce back, and there's always that tether. No matter how much time has passed, they're still friends. I mentioned a friend of mine who runs the Boreal Chameleon. It's like there's a fellow who I worked with 20 years ago, and I think him and I could have been really good friends then. And I think we were friends then, but not as good as I think we could be. I left, got jobs, and when I would go to a job, it's almost like it was a new. I was really bad for it's a new page. It's like a brand new thing, and I think that says a lot about where I was at that time than anything else. So I was definitely going for the goal, not for sustaining any type of relationships. And then when I got where I thought I needed to be or what I wanted, I found out I didn't want it because it was lacking. I had a really terrible manager say something once that was true. And what she said was that this management is a lonely profession. And that I agree with. But they're also doing some weird things too, which makes that more of a darker statement. But what I'm saying is that in the realm of that world, that's an accepted behavior, right? It's like, where do you draw the line between, what you want to have in your life? See, the rooster never leaves. Um, to what you want to end up with, right? And I mean, that's the part that's kind of like the kind of catch 22. But it's not something that's designed by. It's not divine providence. We do this to each other. Because I had another manager say, hey, when you took in the management, you were expected to work 70 to 80 hours a week and only get paid for 40, right? That kind of sums up everything I think you need to know about the places I've worked. And I admit there's always a little bit of extra, and you got to be expected to that when you have positions of responsibility. But you can't shirk your ethics just because you're lonely. And I find that happens a lot of times where people get caught in situations that they shouldn't be in just because they have a need that's unfulfilled. So how does that relate back to what I'm talking about here? Well, I'm glad you asked. Because I think that work-life balance is important, and one of that is friendship. Like, I don't mean you're someone's, I don't mean it's, oh, we go drinking every weekend. I don't mean that kind of friend. I mean, hey, wrestling's coming, let's go. Or, hey, I'm going golfing, let's go shoot around. Stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff I miss. Or even just like, hey, I'm doing this thing, I need your help. And the fact that they're willing to help, right? And I've had that too. It's like, hey, man, I need this. Can you help me do this thing? I don't know how to do it, or, whatever, right? But it's just that I find with friendships, it's kind of knowing that, all right, if things got rough and I needed someone to help me bury somebody, I could probably call this guy, right? Or whatever the case may be. And you can't talk about it. You can't talk about positive relationships. I'll talk about negative relationships. I don't want to dwell on that. I feel like I said enough about that in the last video. But there's some individuals that it's impossible to be friends with, or even just to even like, because if you're nice to them, they immediately try to take that to their advantage and get something out of it for them. They don't give a shit about. There's no bigger picture there. The only picture is them. Maybe they're willing to turn their eye to unethical behaviors, or good Lord, be a part of it, because it means that they'll be protected, or they don't have to go. And then it's like that, oh, I don't know what to do, right? And expect people to save you. Nobody's saving you but you. Not even your good friends, right? But if you're in trouble, you should, there should be somebody you can call and say, hey, look, man, I need some help here, right? And I think that a lot of people push people away because of how they built, or their own trauma, or whatever the hell it is. Some people are just dickheads too. But I know that in the realms of relationships and how relationships work, it's a two-way street. And I know I like to go out and do stuff, but at the same time, I don't like to leave the house, right? So it's like, wow, why don't you come over here? Or no, come over here, blah, blah, blah. That kind of stuff, can kind of weigh on you, because you want something specific, but yet you're not willing to make the effort to do that. It kind of ties into everything as well, right? But what I'm saying is this: if you have a good friend, consider yourself lucky, right? They say that a man's circle of friends has dropped from 3 to 2 over the last 20 years or so, right? And especially, man, what if you get married and your partner has like 5 members of the wedding party, right? Like, man, when I got married, I pretty much had. I think about my wedding party, and it's like, if I could do it over again, I probably wouldn't do that, right? Just because I was like, holy shit, I need to find people. And that's not a good place to be. Because especially when some people are there and don't want to be there. Maybe they show up at 10 minutes before your fucking wedding starts or something. But it's obvious they don't want to be there. They're doing this because they don't have a choice and they feel like they can't say no. You don't want those kind of people either, right? Maybe you help a friend move and he doesn't lift a box, right? Stuff like that. It's like, okay, I'm helping you because I'm your buddy, I'm your friend, and you need help. You have no one else to help you, right? But then you don't do anything. That kind of stuff. I remember one time there was a guy who was moving, and his dad was there, and they were moving a couch, and it was like, had one end, his dad had the other, and the guy whose apartment it was didn't move a damn thing. And it's like, eventually, it's like, do you just want to hop on this couch and we'll carry it to the next apartment? Right? That kind of stuff. And I mean, there's just that kind of laziness, kind of ha-ha, but, there's got to be a give and take, and you can't be a doormat. And if you should have friends where you can say, look, dick, or you're a dipshit, or whatever, and it's joking, right? Like, I have a friend of mine, we share jokes back and forth that aren't always probably appropriate, but it's a matter of, okay, he's not going to take offense from you, that, because he's your mensch, or whatever phrase you want to use, right? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just, enjoying life and just being open to, okay, look, man, it's like, it can get, like that bad manager said, it can get lonely. And when that happens, like sometimes, people, do things they shouldn't. I never understood that. It's like you took a job, you know what it's like. Those are the consequences there, but it still kind of sucks. And I mean, now that everyone's kind of moving on, you kind of look at things as you get a little bit older. You kind of see, all right, you don't need a lot of you don't need a big circle. That two people over the last 20 years. I'm thinking it's probably accurate. If so, maybe it's a little bit high. Because if you're working, you got a family, or you have health issues, or you got something that kind of takes your time up, you're not going to have time to do that. It's like any kind of relationship, right? You got to expect a little give and take. And if there isn't a little give and take, then it's done. But like I said, when people are running around with kind of like a, moon-eyed, ooh, kind of look on their face, you know, if you can't make a decision but yet you want to assume that, yeah, find good friends, right? Be open, but also have your boundaries. That's all you got to do is stand your ground. And a lot of times it's getting out, right? It's doing stuff. That's the hardest part. Like I said, you work all day, you come home, you don't want to leave the house. You just want to do whatever, right? No, come play darts here, right? Or man, if I had a pool table, I would never leave the house, right? Um, that sort of stuff. But that's kind of what I was looking at when I was talking about friends yesterday. And I don't know what we'll call this one. Like I said, Friends Part 2. I don't know. But thank you for watching. Comment below. And I tell ya, life is a beautiful place when you're open to it. So, if you haven't already, like and subscribe to the Unemployed Counselor on YouTube. Follow me on Facebook. Follow the Boreal Chameleon on Facebook too. You're going to like that group. It's pretty fun. And don't worry, I will be your friend. Take care. And I got a dog. That's the best friend I think I ever had. All right, so for me and Mando and all the folks down at Boys Town, have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon.